All right, hey, what's happening, Ted O'Keefe? I have a really, I want to bring this like simple little training to you. It's really going to be simple, but it's going to be very powerful. I have a couple interviews behind me on my screen at home to demonstrate briefly how if you're selling big ticket offers, you can sell, quote unquote, a lot more with less resistance. And turn colder audiences into very, very warm prospects that want to be happy clients working with just you through this model that I've used with multiple clients and have just seen fantastic results. The big problem is that if you're an authority, expert, consultant, high ticket service, the big thing that pops out of the gate is like, does this person really know what they're talking about to solve my problem? And what's the cost, right? Of everything, right? My time, effort, and energy, right? And that's what you're always battling against that. And so that's number one. Number two, and number three is how do you even get on their radar, right? So you have, if you watch any of my other trainings that I pretty much give away inside the Facebook group, but I talk about the who's who, and that is the person. Let me see if I can write this up here. It's like and I know the lighting's not perfect, so bear with me. So I talk about the who's who. And I'll explain that very briefly, but that is that's a way of me saying, hey, when I work with clients, either as a consultant or in our coaching group or with the interview method, the first thing I want to find out is who's your best client. Like if we only pick one client and we're going to talk just to them, who is that person? And tell me what they're buying from you, what they're spending with you. Tell me where they grew up. Tell me about their family. Tell me about like their profession. Tell me about what books they read. And books read, we don't have to go too far in depth on that, but like more importantly is like what associations are they in? And this could be super easy, by the way. If you know your market, this would be super, super fast, right? Now, if you're new in a market and you're testing it, this method still works as well. One of the things we talk about in the high ticket offer fix is like if you have a big offer and you're trying to fix it because it's not converting as well as you like, or even when you're testing things, is that the reason I like Google Doc, the 2-page Google Doc method, is you get an offer out the door really quickly so that you can get feedback from your audience so that you can keep working through your offer, make your offer better, as well as you can figure out who your customer is, right? And a lot of times you find out who your customer is by experiencing who you don't want to be your customer. So anyhow, so the point of sharing all that is that now we take all that stuff. So part of what I would consider a gauntlet series, so to speak, is like we start with a simple lead ad or an opt-in page. We drive into our Facebook group. Maybe we do a 2-page Google Docs. We want the offer out right away. But I love putting an interview before you put the offer, and not a salesy interview, like not a webinar, not something that necessarily they know and screams sales. I want something that is going to do something more powerful than you probably have thought of before. And I'm going to explain this right now. But I want that communicating to my level 10 client, my ideal number 1 client, or number 5. So one of the exercises we do is have you go through who are my top 5 clients, how much revenue have they generated, where did they come from, what are their main pain points, like what are the things that they're trying to escape, okay? We call it, what are they trying to escape? What is pain they're experiencing persistently? They need something urgently done. And what was the other one? Oh, it's possibly life-threatening that they're trying to escape, right? And so you're like, Ed, man, I do Botox or I do dental implants. Like it's not life-threatening. Well, when it becomes a problem, it is life-threatening. And they look in the mirror and they're all of a sudden like, wow, I look 5 years older. It feels life-threatening, you know what I mean? And they're trying to escape it and they think about it every single day, right? And so whatever those pain point messages are, we want to illuminate. And while authority is important, like when I worked with dentists for 11, 12 years. Authority is important because you should be seen as an authority, but the number one way to get to authority is what I call transformational insight. Okay, transformational insight, and I'm borrowing that from two different people. One is Travis Sago, one is Roland Frazier, and Michael Burnoff, actually, he's right behind me. I'll give him credit too. Is that people do not want to, they're not going to buy into your authority and then say, oh God, I'm going to go buy from this guy. They need a moment where they say, holy cow, I've never thought of that. Or, oh my gosh, wow, this person's different. One of my daughters, Keegan, has battled with long haul COVID and Lyme disease for the last 2 years. And the amount of experts, quote unquote, that are out there that talk about Lyme disease or even long COVID, there's a million of them. So how do you sift, sort, and screen through that as a consumer? The best way, in my opinion, is through an interview that illuminates the transformational insight. And there's a structure on that. And underneath the videos here, I'm going to put I think I have 3 videos for you that I want you that you can consume, watch. You can transcribe them, you can model them, have at it. It's really, I don't own their content. I just help them pull it out of them. Okay. And so we had big sales. My dog's like barking in the other room because he's like, "What?" He's like, "Ed, why aren't you letting me in?" So what I want to do is walk through just a very basic like framework that I use in all my interviews when I interview one of these experts, and I want to walk you through it, and then I'll give you the next steps on that. But the key thing I want you to understand is that what most people do when they're trying to build authority and credibility is they start going on all these other people. They try to get on all these other people podcasts, and they start posting a ton of content. But I'm telling you, you can cut through all that clutter super, super fast by one great interview. Okay, so I'm gonna pause this. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna throw my dog upstairs and lock him up, and then we're gonna go at it. Okay, all right. Thanks so much. Bye. All right, so I'm back. So now I'm gonna walk you through a couple studies or case studies. Like number one, I had a client in the dental high ticket coaching, $65K enrollment. Great company, established company. They're doing great things. The founder is an amazing guy, and there's just a lot of positivity coming from that. He had transformation. Like he was so filled with transformational insight that when they hired me to look over their marketing and see how they can improve sales and improve conversions, I said, well, the thing that's not being communicated is how great Bill is and what he can do for the clients. Like that's not even being communicated. We're too focused on the funnels and doing crap you like see at seminars, but everybody's doing it. You really need something that's going to stand out, position you as the solution to the person's problem, to keep it super simple, and truly highlight the person's problem. And I'm going to tell you about one benefit. So working with them though, I mean, we've had an ongoing number. I've done 3 interviews with them. So they've had such a great success. The leads coming in were like, I need to, be a client. And I listened to Ed and Bill on the interview, and they led though. I just want everyone to know, like they were giving a book offer away. They were like, pay free shipping and handling. I always have to tell people this. People don't read books. I'm great. We spend years creating books, but most people don't read books, right? They may listen to them. Well, why? Because people like listening to things. It's also another reason why you should have a killer solid interview positioning what you're doing. But we'll get to that. Well, we're getting to that now. The other powerful thing is what I want to share about this is that Dr. Bill and I, when I do my research, I look at the prospect, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about that. So what I want to do is make sure that we get the attention side of this is the client's attention is super important. And so one of my jobs when I'm interviewing someone like Dr. Bill, when I'm interviewing someone like Roland, when I'm interviewing someone like Nick or Michael, but Roland and Bill, were clients, and like Ro and I were partners on a project that did multiple 7 figures very, very rapidly. But so it's my job as the interviewer. This is what's different about going on a podcast versus doing a strategic $1 million method interview, okay, or $1 million, high ticket interview method, because my job as the interviewer is to sell it for you without people knowing they're being sold, okay? So the big thing is, I'm do the intro, go to the big claim. Now, I like to say like, hey, for example, like in dentistry, I know that market pretty well. Hey everybody, today I have Dr. Bill Blatchford. Now here's what's great about what's coming today. And then I go, if you ever wondered how do you get better patients who are pre-educated, pre-qualified, ready to say yes when they walk in your door, sit in your chair, and you're sick and tired of, and I go through what are they sick and tired of. So I lay that all out before the interview even starts, right? And that's what you'd be doing too, right? For this thing. And so I lay the hook, and I got this, I got the hook, line, and sinker in. It's done. The big claim's there and the hook's there. And if you're sick and tired of blah, 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 if you're overwhelmed with, and if you're concerned with this. So how would I make that up on the spot? I'm going to make it up on the spot right here. But if you're sick and tired of dealing with price-driven patients who take up your chair time, which sucks into your production time, which, as you know, is killing your cash flow, and you have team members, handling excess patients that you don't really need in your practice. What else did I want to say there? And you're worried about the economic, chaotic environment that we're currently in and how that's going to affect not only you, but your entire practice and everything you've invested in. Well, I have great news today, because Dr. Bill Blatchford, and now here's the credibility, over the last 20 years has worked with so many people, blah, 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 but you know what? Nobody cares about blah, blah, blah. And recently, so see how I pull it all the way to the present moment, Dr. Bill shared with me about a recent client that's having the best year ever when everyone else is reporting that the last 6 months have been the worst 6 months in the last 10 years for them. So how are they doing it? Well, that's why I brought Dr. Bill on today. So then that's the intro, that's the hook. And there's a lot of emotional things going on there for the prospect. Now imagine this, imagine your who's who, right? Imagine they're hearing someone else. So that's an external third-party credibility, right? Who's got a show, interviewing you in a, you could do this over Zoom, totally. You could do it in person like Roland and I did, Nick and I did, Dr. Bill and I did it over Zoom, okay? And by the way, I can do this for you. It depends on the fit and to make sure, but, and there's different pricing on if we do it Zoom or in person, just so you know. So it's all possible, and you can hire someone. Like, for me, like if I know enough people that are really good interviewers, depends on my target market, as well. But that's the key thing in the opening right there. So we've identified our market. And then the one thing I probably just left out there is I would definitely, the who's who would be part of my opening. I think I did it, but like with Roland, I'll tell you like what my intro probably looked like. And you can watch the video below and watch how I set him up. I usually bring it back to something I'm slightly inadequate about, which is, it's a little subconscious trick but it's a way of gaining rapport with the audience. And so like with Roland, for example, one of the things that he was teaching was how to do consulting and get equity in people's businesses. And so if one of the things that I know by working with coaches, consultants, is they're frustrated with the time for money trap and how to escape that. And so what I would say is something like, like my frustration is for 10 years, I worked and helped dentists. Like this is my inadequacy story. And even though our residual income was high, when the economy hit, it definitely wiped out my membership club over a period of a couple of years. And it was very hard to keep people up. Now, if I had equity in businesses of those I consulted or coached with no money out of pocket. If their businesses were still doing well, I was still getting paid. Okay. So that is like a way to relate with everybody on the call or on the interview, because it's pretty true with almost everybody who's trading time for money, whether it's coaching, consulting, agency stuff. Like, how do I escape that treadmill? Okay. It's a fair concern. And for like dentists or professional practices or business owners, they're thinking the same way, guys. Right. And so that's why if you have a solution that solves any of those issues, it's very good to articulate that in this, early on, get it out. And we go through that, right? So now there's a little bit of a thing. So you go through like what I would consider like a journey of the story, right? Okay. Now through the story, one of the things I'll do early is bring up. Now, the reason I want to have you on is because I've admired you from afar, or we've worked together, or whatever it might be, and you have a coaching program that helps. And so I get the offer right in the front that lets the prospect know this guy has a solution, and then I lay out the specific problem, okay? The reason why that's so important is because most people don't get to the end of the interviews unless you give them a reason to stay, or, people get distracted. So I want people early on, especially if you have a sales team, or especially if you have people pinging people back saying, hey, I just want to see if you listen to the interview. Like, you have VAs doing this, just with Ed and Roland, and what you thought of it. And then a lot of times prospects will be like, yeah, I started it. It was great. Thanks for reminding me. I'm going to get back to it. Okay, and I have one more trick that I'm gonna share with you about consumption. So let me write this down on consumption, because I guarantee that all of you, if you got your ideal who's who consuming more of your content and transformational insight content, you'd have a ton of clients. Like, you'd have way more clients you know what to do with, right? And if you're not there yet, then I'm glad you're on this like little mini training with me. It's kind of like a semi-private, right? We're sitting here with this phone right in my face. My daughter, Ireland, I got to bring her to the clinic. And that's why forgive me if I'm just kind of throwing this all together, but she came down from upstairs. She's like, Dad, when are you done? What are you doing in there? I'm like, don't worry about it, honey. We're just doing transformational content. Anyhow, so the framework that I want to bring people through is pretty simple. And as you can imagine, it's nothing like groundbreaking, okay? But we get started. So I want to introduce the coaching club early. So here's my offer early on. Now, this is part of a setup for later, because later I'm going to talk about what are the prices of the coaching club. And the reason why that's super important is because it's an interview, right? It's an interview. And I don't know about you, but like every time I go to like hire a coach, I'm like, hey, what's the price of your thing? And they're like, hey, why don't we get on a phone call? And I'm like, bothers the heck out of me, because I'm like, well, no, because I have a question. It's called, what's the price, right? Now, I know sales. I know that really what you're supposed to say is like, I'd be happy to share the investment with you, but I'd like to discover more about your situation and how we can, match a possibility. Now, the right answer, by the way, in my opinion, is, well, it ranges, Ed. We have a package that services people who are wanting X, Y, and Z that will be more in a range around 3,000 to 7,000, and and then all the way, and then we have one that people that are looking for more of an intimate one-on-one setting or want to be in the elite group, and that's in this range as well. Now, here's why I believe you should give people an opportunity to know that, okay? Now, would I possibly say, well, it ranges, but we don't send out invitations to everybody? Like, that's a different video. I will walk you through that, so no arguing here. If you're like, well, Ed, I don't want to just pitch people on price if they're price driven. Now, what I might say is, hey, I love that you asked that question. Did you get a chance to watch the full interview? Because I cover it in the interview. And then the reason why the reason I'm addressing this right now is because if I cover it, I'm covering it strategically. Okay. So actually I'm going to pop to price right now. So here's our CTA. And then one of the CTAs are, tell me about how you are helping people. How help, right? And in that, I'm going to talk about price, and I'm going to talk about the power of one client pays for all of it. Like, I will do that. I'll say, okay, well, what's the investment in consulting for equity? Oh, it's $7,500. Okay, so in your first module, I was looking at your modules, and you show people how to get the first 10 clients in your first module within 30 days, right? So I would say to everybody watching this now, what is a client worth to you, right? What is a client worth to you? So like with Dr. Bill, I'd say like, okay, so wait, so it's $65,000. Okay, so for some people that may seem like, listen to watch what I'm gonna say. For some people that may seem like, wow, how am I gonna pay $65,000? So I imagine you have installment options if people prefer installments. Yeah, it's only $2,900 a month or $3,000 a month. Okay, so for $3,000 a month, and you are giving them a dedicated coach that's going to get their entire team moving quickly, and you're going to have a coach that's going to increase case acceptance. And I know what a dental implant case is worth. It's worth $70,000. Like you can get one, right? And we just went through 3 case studies where, and this is part of the setup, where 3 case studies where you helped certain doctors. Like they really do have a case study where like one doctor was doing 3 dental implant cases a month, and within 6 months he was doing 30 a month. Do you guys know what the transformational value of that is? Like economically, like how that impacts this guy's family, his marriage, his life, his ability to, have freedom. I mean, like that's so this is me as the interviewer helping along the doctor or like the expert, right? And so then like with $65,000, I would say, okay, so for $3,000, so you're telling me for 2 crowns, right? For 2 crowns a month, 2 extra crowns a month, which most of the doctors listening to this probably have someone else doing it, right? Or an extra, 10 cleanings, right? And with your 1-5, like if we add the 5 questions to increase case acceptance, which is one of his tools, we're going to have higher ticket patients. You're telling me that's possible, right? And I've seen that in my firsthand with the case studies. So really, the coaching program is really for free because after the first month, it's all paying for itself plus some, correct? Yes. Okay. Same thing with anything. And what I would challenge you guys with is that whatever you are selling, you have to have a way of making it look so it's free. Like, so there's no risk and it's free, even though there's an investment. So I'm paying an investment, but this is how I'm getting it back. And then I would say like, okay, I don't know about you, Dr. Bill, but my kids spend $100 a day at Starbucks. I'm sort of joking, but I have 7 kids and they all they love Starbucks. My point is that now we start looking at, okay, where is the prospective client who's watching this? Where are they currently spending money that they could either stop spending or trade it off and give it to you? Or they realize, look, I went to Lululemon twice last month and it didn't, it's already in my closet, right? Or, stop going to Lululemon. Wear what's in your closet, invest in yourself, and all of a sudden you're going to get results if you want. And then I get through the sales pitch. But if you're really good at selling that too, by the way, if you're really good at selling that, then just have the interviewer set you up. Okay, so it sounds like a lot, but tell me why that it pays for itself. And then if you're really good at articulating that, then you don't need me to do that. But I could reiterate it. Now, the other way of doing that is, I like saying, say you were great at pitching it. I would just jump in and tell a story. That reminds me of when, and then I would go through a similar story, different context that helps make price disappear. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump to price, guys. I didn't mean to jump to price, and just go out of order. But the reason why the offer and the price is so important in an interview is that we're all afraid of it. We all stay away from it, right? And that's what I found is that with Dr. Bill, he's not afraid to talk about price. He's amazing. He is amazing. He is fully confident talking about price. He has sold this program for 40 years. He's amazing. He's in his mid or early 70s, and he looks like he's younger than me. I'll have to tag him in this so he knows, and he keeps hiring me as a consultant, I guess. But what they were missing was consumption of that amazing. They were missing the consumption. And I told the director of marketing and sales, I was like, what you need is more people consuming this. Like, I wouldn't get on a phone call with anybody until they consume this. Like, if they're not serious, if they don't consume it, right? And so you take this video, the video interview, you put it on your podcast, even if it's the only freaking podcast you have. You make a podcast, you put it on there. This is interview number 1, podcast number 1 with Ed O'Keefe and you, and I'm gonna make you look amazing, right? So that's the goal. And then what we would say is, this is podcast conversion strategies, is now you take 5 solo episodes of the 5 biggest questions and inadequacies people have. Okay, so I'm going to that right here. So here's the coaching club offer. And how did you get here? So here's the hero's journey. But what's super important here, I need to bring up the inadequacy, shame, self-doubt, fears, inadequacy, shame, self-doubt. I'm missing one. It'll come to me in a second. I need to bring those all up in this. The coaching club offer is the solution to all those hidden self-doubt, inadequacy, the shame I feel as someone who's struggling through this, or my overwhelm, confusion, lack of clarity. You are the solution to all those problems, right? It has to flow through that. Your hero's journey does not matter if how you got here does not matter if they can't relate and experience the transformational insight through that. Like, holy crap, this person went through similar things. Or if you like, for example, Tony Robbins does a great job with some of this stuff where he tells his story of being broke, the man showing up at his door. He made a commitment, to like always being a giver in life. And then the best salespeople use analogies and metaphors of other people. I went on this journey and this was my experience. And then, so that's their experience. Now, it's very easy for people. Let me see if I get a different color marker. It's very easy if people in this area, even if they can totally relate, you're gonna have 1 or 2 responses. Like, holy crap, this person is exactly like me. And guess what? That is the person who's DMing you, private messaging you, begging you to let them in the coaching club, okay? And then the other response is like, oh my God, this is inspiring, da, 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 da. But I can't get past my self-doubt, uncertainty, and fears, okay? Now, that's where you go. But the best part of what we do is, so Dr. Bill, during our interview, shared something that helped us shift his whole marketing game plan, okay? And I'll tell you about it in a second, but it started with a story of him and his wife. And the story was him and his wife, Dr. Bill, how'd you get into where you are now? Can you take me back, to the 80s when you were practicing dentistry? And he goes through this story of his transformational moment and insight happened at a Christmas party when his staff left his house, and him and his wife were cleaning up after the staff after another year. And his wife turned to him and says, "This is like every month. We're just cleaning up the scraps after everyone else has been fed." And it hit him, meaning they're all getting paid, doc. They're all getting paid, but we're here working our ass off, and we're the ones still here, and we're getting the leftovers. And at that point, he's like, man, something's got to change. Now, then we addressed the big myth in the industry, which was the big myth in the industry is you got to grow. You got to scale. You can't see my hands. And that means you're successful. The more gross profit I have, the more success I have. And it was the beginning of him looking at like, well, what's working and what's not, and what's really making money and what's not. And he cut half his team, net profit doubled. He's making more money. He focused on the who's who, and then he focused on his team, who's going to be with me. And then we just got better. Like that was, and then guess what? Then he looked around, he saw all these other doctors who had the same freaking issue. They're stuck in this is what he said, they're stuck in a low profit trap. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wrote that down. We changed the whole title of the interview from how to get high-end cases to escaping the low profit trap, because that was more powerful. Because guess what? More dentists were trying to escape their low profit trap because they're all stuck in the same thing. Let's go grow our businesses, but there's no profit at the end of the month. I guarantee agencies feel this way. I guarantee small business owners, especially right now, feel that way. And that's where you go like, most people measure success based on the number of employees or their gross revenue. And those are not success indicators. Those are just data points that frankly don't matter. You could be, so whatever. I mean, I'll go into that later. I guess that's not really important on this call. I'm just kind of rambling now, and like with Roland, that we already talked about that, where people are trying to escape the time for money trap. So one thing you got to look for is, what are people trying to escape, and how do I just highlight it during my interview? Inadequacy fears, other examples. And then give me 3 to 5 tactics they could do today. Okay, now, and then we go into call to action, and then we wrap it up, whatever your call to action is. So I think, but this is getting longer than I want it to be, just because got to run a kid to the clinic and then start the day. So hopefully you like this, by the way. Hopefully you like this. I do want to talk about consumption and syndication just for a moment. So hey, that's awesome. So what are 3 to 5 things that people can do today? And now, this is a professional tip I'm going to give you. If you want people to buy from you and have success, okay, if you want people to buy from you and have lifelong success, tell them what to do, okay? Number 1, you got to have a staff trained that knows how to answer the phone. Number 2, you got to get really clear about identifying who's your level 10 patient, okay? Number 3, you need to have a power network of referral sources that are going to help explode your practice. Number 4, you got to get rid of all the lazy expenses in your business that are just sucking you down. Probably you don't even know half of them are going on. Number 5, you got to get your team trained by a professional who knows how to get all your systems lined up so that you and your wife can have 3 days off every single week and go on 6 vacations a year. It might not happen the first year, but by the second year, we can do that. Oh, and then number 7, go on a calendar today and write 6 mini vacations with your wife and kids, and make 2 of them just you and your wife. Like that would be something Dr. Bill would say. Now, what's going through your mind if you're the consumer on that? This is all sound super advice, right? Boom, number 1. Boom, number 2. I love it. This guy knows what he's talking about. But where is your prospect gonna fall short? They don't know how to do it, right? They don't know how to do it, okay? And so they need you. Now you may be sitting there like, that's tricky. See, you're a scammer. You're leaving things out. No, let me tell you the truth. You're setting them up for success, because if they knew how to do it, they would have already done it, okay? They already know their staff needs to be trained. They don't know how to do it. They already know that they got to audit their expenses and get rid of the ones that are weighing them down. They don't know how to do it. They already know that, they already know they need to be building better systems. They just don't know how to do it. Like you talk to let's see here, what were we talking about there? Like, hey, how do we grow a fan page, right? Everyone wants a fan page. Everyone wants to use podcasts to convert more. Like you've heard it before, but most people don't know how to do that. So if you just say, hey, here's what you gotta do, and let me tell you exactly the script. The script needs to be, hey, Susie, this is what you say. Well, the problem is the doctor's probably not the best person to be training Susie. Dr. Bill's staff should be. You see what I'm saying? So your best gift to them is to structure it in a way that makes them want to work with you. And your job as somebody who's trying to grow a successful business is to communicate and articulate information in such a way that you are attracting the right people who want to work with you. So we're all on the same page here. If they don't want to work with you, and if there's somebody who's not going to take action, then trust me, if you tell them how to do that, they're just going to get lost for 6 to 8 weeks trying to do it on their own, right? And we don't want people doing stuff who just want to do it on their own. They don't want to work with the mentor who's figured it out. They're not the right fit for your coaching club anyway, right? So that's the way you structure data, right? And then we go into, okay, this is amazing. Like, this is amazing. Dr. Bill, this is amazing. I love listening to this. I'm learning. I'm taking so many notes here. I'm with you. Now, okay, so let's get into this. Like, what does it cost? Or what programs are available for you and what does it cost? We've already talked about that a little bit, so I don't want to go too in depth. I think the big thing is you don't want to create filters that push everybody away. But I think this is your window to say, look, we work with people at this level and we work with people at this level, okay? This is the ideal, and this is where you go. This is an ideal customer for us. So if that's you right there, then you'd be doing yourself a disservice by not reaching out to us, because we can do, and then go benefit. I can help you with that. And then we go into price. Okay, so what's the investment? That'd be me. What's the investment? Okay, cool. So if I have to do the price boogaboo, using an old copywriting term, or you do it, or the expert does it, that's fine as well. Okay. We already went through that, so I'm not going to go through that. Okay, great. And so, boom. Where do you want them to go today? Email you, DM you, go to a certain thing. Boom. I reiterate the call to action. You stick it on the video up top. You know how you want them to do it. Once you post that to YouTube, and boom, there you go. Great, awesome. If you're doing any type of small groups, you got to bring that up. The power of it's very great to go through. This marker is the wrong marker. It's super important to the whole idea of the power of many. The power of many, the power of a mentor, the power of a mastermind, the power of collectively learning together, the power of borrowing wisdom, the power, it's so important to bring that in. So you do any of that, that's extra important to make sure you're covering that. Like, you can't do this on your own, because what are you going to do on a Tuesday when you're sitting here and you can't figure something out? Who are you going to call? We talk about the 5 people you hang out with are the 5 people that, your income is in direct correlation to that, but so is your mindset. And if you're sitting at home and the only person you talk to is your spouse, your kids, and your neighbors who are not entrepreneurs or are goal achievers, guess what? Through the law of osmosis, you are going to become that, right? So the reason why we hold these small groups, or the reason I do the one-on-one consulting, is to help make sure we have not only accountability, but camaraderie, and we cheer for each other, and we want everyone to get better. I mean, that's really where, and obviously it's got to be true, You don't want to be selling, hey, we do a room of 30 people and then there's 300. You can't do that. So just don't promise that if that's the goal, by the way. It's okay to do that. You just can't promise that if that's the goal. Or you could reframe it slightly. Like, we have a group of 1,000 people, but people feel like they're in rooms because we do small group of 30 because we do small groups. We have leaders, stuff like that. Like, Russell Brunson runs his mega summit. People love it. People love going there, love being around people, and they leave with a sense of, energy and camaraderie. I've never been to one, but I love Russell, and I love a lot of people that have gone through it. And so that's pretty much it. Now, let me just talk very briefly about consumption. You can take the video interview, and then this is where you do $1 a day ads after people engage with anything in your retargeting audiences. So they should be seeing you on Instagram. This content should be on Facebook. This content should be on LinkedIn. This content should be on Twitter. This content should be cut up into little mashups and just everywhere, right? Everywhere, right? And we could refer a company that could do that for you if that's what you need help with. Let's see what else. It should be in your podcast. I already said that. And and then send it to, here's another question. This is an advanced trick. Who benefits from your clients having success, right? Who benefits from it? So, and I'll give you a quick example. If I'm if I'm a tax attorney who closes, wrong one. Even though there's something there, I'm just trying to think through this a little bit. I'm thinking two different examples. Like dental labs benefit when their doctors have more patients, right? So reach out to 5 dental labs. Hey, this would be something I believe all your clients would find really cool. If you want to send it out to them as a gift, I'd really appreciate it. And I think they only produce more implants for you guys. And the labs would be stupid not to promote that out. Send out their newsletter, get it out there, right? And your paid advertising, one of the best and highest converting click-through things you can do on an email or an ad is new podcast. New podcast is up, So it's endless, the amount of cool things you can do with this. So great, Zed O'Keefe. Here's my little kind of call to action. If you, two things. One, underneath here or in my Facebook group, High Ticket Made Easy, Coaching, Consulting, Agencies 2023. But on this page, you should, if you're looking at it either on a ClickFunnels page or on Wistia, the other interviews, the one I did with Roland, the one I did with, I did 3 with Dr. Bill. So he hired me 3 times. And I have another one. I got to ask their permission to share it. But you can look through those. Okay. I think you'd enjoy that. And I've gotten, when I've interviewed Travis Sago, which you'll see on YouTube, he says he gets clients all the time coming in saying, hey, I get a ton of people and they're always coming in pre-sold, right? They're always coming in pre-sold. They're not like, hey, can I get something free? No, they're coming to buy. Same thing is with Burn Off. I'm trying to think of anyone else on my podcast, because, anyhow, it's just the best. But if you want me to interview you, I do have a service that does that. So, prices range between $7,500 and $15,000, depending on what you want. But if you want it and you want it done quick, just you could email me at ed@edokeefelive.com, or just DM me on Facebook, and either myself or one of my team members will get back to you. We'll schedule a date, get it up. And the nice thing I like about doing those is I could bang those out quickly and fit people into a schedule. So, but it's got to be a fit. Like I got to believe in what you're doing and all that fun jazz. So, all right, have an amazing one, guys. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.